Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank all of you for being here. Just curious, just to start real quick question. Ms. Fenton mentioned, obviously, it's the Denali Commission is just one state. Where is your commission located? And just go through real quick, and then I'll ask a deeper question here.
Our Delta Regional Authority's headquarter office is in Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Okay, thanks.
And SCRC is headquartered in Columbia, South Carolina.
Concord, New Hampshire, but our team is entirely remote.
Okay.
Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Great, good, thank you. In my initial statement, I talked about coordination with the EDA. Ms. Fenton again mentioned a large grant that she had procured with the EDA grant. But I didn't hear much about the EDA from the four of you. So could you briefly speak about your coordination effort with EDA and how you think we could make these work better together if they're not, well, you can always do better. So why don't you tell me about what kind of coordination, and we'll just go down the row here.
No, we work wonderfully with EDA. As a matter of fact, just last month, we announced a little bit over $4 million of leveraged EDA funding throughout the DRA region. One particular project was in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for about $1.3 million, which was unique about it was the opportunity to leverage EDA funding. We had investments from the Walton Family Foundation as well, so bringing in philanthropic funding as well. But we work hand in hand with EDA.
What was that? What kind of project was that?
It was a small business and retail incubator in downtown Pine Bluff, Arkansas, where they were revitalizing the downtown area, old building, putting it back into use, and it had great community support and was able to leverage funding through EDA and support from the Walton Family Foundation as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Next.
At SCRC, we are just beginning to build those partnerships with federal agencies. The descriptor that was just given by Dr. Wiggins sounds very much like something that we can replicate throughout our region. There's several buildings that are waiting for use. They're sitting empty. So it would be great if we could have those partnerships, and we are working on leveraging that at SCRC.
Thank you. Mr. Saunders?
We utilize a lot of the same local partners. Senator Carper talked about none of us really being job creators. EDA utilizes economic development districts. We often utilize those same organizations for our local development districts and invest in them to take the plans they produce for EDA to put into action. We similarly have some projects where we co-invest in a rural place with 5,000 people. If there's a $10 million, $20 million project, the organizers of that project aren't going to be able to use one source to get it done. So they may talk to EDA, they may talk to us. We're really cognizant of what that agency can and cannot do. And so things that may not pencil out well when a project comes together, say housing development, that's not going to score well in an EDA application, but is a really dire need in many rural places. So we look for the spots that they cannot fund and try to move into those as well.
Oh, good. Okay. Mr. Sanchez?
We are incorporating the EDA sets plans into our 5-year plans.
Okay.
So that we can co-invest in projects. Additionally, the local economic development districts are eligible to apply on behalf of distressed communities. So they are the ones who administer and follow EDA sets plans. So we anticipate we'll have a lot of co-investment.
Okay, and Ms. Fenton, you mentioned one project. Are you working? Do you have one EDA representative in Alaska for your state solely?
I was going to say that we have to work closely with our one.
Yeah, you need the microphone.
I was going to say that we are happy to work closely with our one EDA representative in Alaska, along with our Alaska Regional Development Organizations, and pairing that EDA opportunity with Denali Commission, and how can we leverage those opportunities, either through technical assistance or we can close with the various applicants to really put together a fundable project that makes sense for Alaska's economy.
Well, I know the emphasis on infrastructure. These are expensive projects. No one funding source, unless you're very lucky, can actually cover all this, and that's what the coordination. I will note that I heard in almost everybody's statement that you do quite a bit of coordination with USDA Rural Development. And then with this broadband money coming into the states, that's going to be a really critical piece for all your commissions. It certainly is in our state. You've mentioned a couple best practices. It seems like you all kind of have compared and talked a little bit. Sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just use good ideas from other commissions. So Dr. Clyburn-Reed mentioned the J1, and you mentioned it again, Mr. Saunders. Do you have any other best practices that you'd want to share right here that maybe works particularly well for your commission, Dr. Wiggins?
Sure. I think one of the areas, and we've all talked about regional capacity building. So many of our communities we're serving that are small, rural, part-time mayors, part-time, alder folks
Right.
who are leading. And so we've really leaned in a lot to capacity building by working with established partners like community development financial institutions, university partners, other philanthropic organizations, trying to leverage our resources, their resources, in a way to think about, while we can't write grants, there are institutions who can work with them and support them along that way. And so capacity building has been one of those things, top of the line, making
Right.
sure that rural communities aren't left out of the amounts of historic federal funding that's available for infrastructure.
Anything else? Anybody would like to? Yes, go ahead.
Well, one thing I wanted to add was to look at our universities and colleges in our region. One thing that SCRC is approaching is an HBCU convening. 38 of the 103 HBCUs in the country are in the Southeast Crescent region. So it just makes sense for us to form that partnership and convene them so that we can talk about ways to benefit from SCRC. We have had no applicants from the HBCUs. In our first round, it's just the first round. So we have no applicants. So we want to make sure that that is not a resource that we're leaving
Right, that's good. Mr. Saunders, do you have something you want to mention?
These are some of the external ways we coordinate, as you noted, very much on an internal basis. We share ideas about grant programs and contracting. Senator Stabenow mentioned the nominee for the Great Lakes Authority. We've already engaged with him to talk about developing a vision. So there's both this external work that happens as well as internal best practices that we can share to be effective.
Okay, Mr. Sanchez, did you have something?
Yeah, I appreciate the support from the other regional commissions who have given us a guiding light. Our commission tries to use our authority, our flexibility to fill in the gaps what other agencies are not funding. For an example is, residents often bear the cost of laying down service pipes from the
Yeah, to the
main
home.
line. That's something that many federal agencies don't cover. Another example is the pre-development studies. We can fund engineering studies, archaeological studies, and those happen to be barriers for distressed communities. So we're trying to fill in the gaps and co-invest.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.